Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. We've got a special episode planned for you this week, so check out what's coming up. How the fuck do you buy a camel in the Sahara Desert? Like, is there a camel dealer?
Don't forget, this was the 80s, right?
It felt like a war zone.
He goes, I'm an undercover police officer.
That's my dream. I want to be a hashery.
He's like, this guy's fat. Is he selling Bibles? What does he want?
Talk to me in about 12 months and I can maybe have it ready for you.
And that was what I was good at. And I'm still good at that.
Hey, welcome to Legacies, everyone. First episode of the year. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie, joined by Wesley, the Wizard Bulls. Wes, good morning. Happy New Year.
Good morning.
We still say Happy New Year? How long are we allowed to say Happy New Year?
Well, it's only day 2. I think we're allowed to say Happy New Year. I think we're good with that.
Dude, back when I was like factory life, when I was like early 20s, people said fucking Happy New Year for like a month.
Yeah.
That was a little extreme.
I also remember it snowing around Christmas, but I guess that doesn't happen anymore either. So
it snowed right before Christmas.
Yeah.
It snowed. Yeah. We had a little bit of downtime before we get into what we're going to do very special for this episode, which some have criticized. They say, "Oh, this is the easy way out," and I don't think it is. This creates a hell of a lot more work for you, especially, but also just the prep work. But let's remind everyone that Legacies is powered by Breadstack retailers. It might be time for an upgrade. Suggest you check them out. They do some awesome work. I think when we were prepping and planning for this, we obviously could have had a guest on. We're like, hold on, let's do a year in review. Let's pull some greatest moments. And God, it's tough. What was it? 42 episodes.
Well, yeah. If you include extras like the holiday special as well as the
Mike Downey,
the Mike Downey episode. Yeah. We're technically at 44, 45. So
right.
Yeah.
And 64 guests, but
64
we
guests.
Appreciate everyone's support. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to do this without you and giving us the feedback. Speaking of feedback, what was it? Right before Christmas, I was wearing my tribute to Clark Griswold Christmas vacation jersey. Dude, I got fucking eaten up on that. People are, we got to get you a Toronto jersey. We got to get you an Edmonton jersey. So I got a Vancouver Canucks hat on today.
I was going to ask you what that hat was.
Courtesy of my son. He knows that I like the Canucks. It was the first game I ever saw as a child, and it's the flying skate. I can't get away from that. Now they've made some horrible faux pas in their jersey designs over the years. There's some really bad ones.
Yeah.
This vicious V. Oh my God, it was a fucking brutal jersey. Anyways, we enjoyed some downtime. We hope everyone else had a little bit of downtime. Holidays are sometimes stressful though too. Sometimes stressful.
Yeah, they are. Did you get anything good for Christmas?
Anything good for Christmas? Let's see.
I mean, your hat, obviously.
I got my hat. I got some. Yeah, I got an under the desk treadmill. I don't know if that's my wife saying, "Listen, lard ass," or it's just because I complain about not moving so much.
Is that the equivalent gift of like buying your wife a vacuum cleaner for Christmas?
Or washer and dryer? Yes.
It's a risky gift, isn't it?
It is a fucking risky. I think I'd been talking about, I should try one. I was always skeptical about it. We sit, especially work from home, remote people. I forget what company I saw that posted this. It might've been Shopify. I forget. They trust their employees, right? I don't know, but what do? We went full remote, onset of COVID. We were one of the first companies in Toronto at the time.
Yeah, we adapted pretty quickly, right? I think all that stuff went down in like
we were out by March. We were out by
at
March.
Least April, yeah, the very latest.
Yeah,
we were out.
And for some, like ourselves, like when it's a work day, it's grab your coffee and you're at your desk all fucking day for the most part. Other than get up and I don't know if others are like that, but holy shit, you can do the work of 10 people when you've got very few. The problem with that is you're sitting, your hips, your joints, and I'm trying to be very conscious of this, especially, it's a bit of a sad time over holidays, leading up into Christmas. A neighbor friend had passed away, young guy, he's like 56 years old. And then yesterday, as you know, we spent the day, my wife and I, saying goodbye to her great uncle, and he's at a hospice. And man, it's like you just start to reflect and you think, and it's like, man, be around your loved ones as much as you can and take care of your health. Listen, people, take care of your health. God, I'm not saying he was sick, but just makes you reflect. It makes you wonder, like, what can you do, right? I take as many vitamins and supplements as I can, but I think movement. They say sitting is the new smoking. So
yeah, those hospice environments are tough environments to be in.
They're tough, and I mean the staff, volunteers. God, I got to give it to them. Like I don't know how they do it. But incredible people at. I'll give a shout out to Secure House. Incredible people.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well,
enough
I guess
about sadness. I guess
maybe to pick you up a bit. Did you smoke anything good over the holidays?
I'll tell you, I got pissed off about something. And I'm not going to mention the brand. And I finally, so you had gifted me some, I love those one-to-ones.
I
found it in my jacket pocket. So you remember it was a mild day. We recorded our holiday episode and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Stuffed in my pocket. And I hadn't wore that coat because it's been cooler out, right? And so I pull it. I'm like, oh, I got these. And I looked at the pack and it was fucking packed on December 23rd, 2023.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't sealed. There was no Boveda pack, nothing. I'm telling you, it was dry. High was okay. This isn't anything against the gift at all.
Well,
I appreciate the gift, but I was like, a year?
Yeah, they were in, again, not without saying the brand, they were in a box and the joints were just in a plastic little pouch thing.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think was well sealed now that you mention it. I think it was just like a sticky fold over.
Just fold it over.
Wow,
I'll tell you,
so
they were dry. They were harsh. But I don't know. Like we don't have expiry. Like we can't nail an expiry date, I don't think, on weed, right?
Right.
We know when it's no good. Right. But if I had known, I probably wouldn't purchase a flower or pre-roll product that's that old, I should say.
When I bought that for you, I should have checked that myself when I looked at it.
But
in
how
the
would you
store.
know?
I didn't even. Yeah.
They're not going to. I've experienced this, right? You ask. Sometimes there's a range on potency, obviously, and you're like, oh, can I get this one? Can I get this one? And they'll bring them out depending on the bud tender or the retail environment. They're accommodating, but if you're going to sit and start going through all the packaged on dates, they get pissed off, right? Yep. I'm sorry, but there needs to be a better way. And then we know the horror stories in this industry. We've seen it firsthand, especially from our days at Ample, was why are the packed on dates changing, right? Oh, they're receiving product back. They're repackaging it to put it back out to get a new packed on date. I would love personally, I don't know who agrees with me, I know you do, is I would love to see a harvested on date or when that lot was tested. That would tell me a lot more. Forget the packaged on date, right?
Yep.
Forget it. If that's all we've got because we don't have to deal with expiry dates.
Harvested 2 years ago, packaged last week.
Man, that cured forever, right? Yeah. Like I don't know. I get it. It's still just a really immature industry. There's a lot of movement. There's some good news coming. I saw something and I don't know if it's good or bad, but it was about the AGCO changing the rules of transfer of product and stock or retail license, which is they can expedite it. Where before, I guess it was a ton of red tape. You wanted to purchase retail. In a lot of cases, let's face it, these retailers are going out of business. They're not, the upper echelon. They've seen great success and they're selling and cashing out. There's an exit strategy. Yes, some are. But I just look at it as this is just a means to be able to expedite the closing of a business, shuttering, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Looking for good news this year, and then all of a sudden, StratCam posts an article on here's all the CCAAs that happened this year, and
yeah, it's tough to avoid it. I actually yesterday talking to my wife's cousin, he's like, "Oh, you're still in cannabis?" I'm like, "Yeah." Some days think I'm crazy, but he was just he was asking about some of that, and I gave him that stat. I gave him the 2023 stat of out of all CCAAs, 36% were from the, and he just stood there for a second. And I'm like, let that sink in. Yeah. He's like, yeah, wow, that's really bad. I'm like, fucking tell me about it. Imagine operating in this industry.
Well, I guess on a positive note on that too, it's nice to see. I saw a couple over the holiday of JW's post, Jonathan Wilson. Obviously, he's still posting, still getting
And
people
shaved.
rallied around. Yeah, and shaved. Yeah, and shaved.
Who,
Looking
who
good.
the fuck was that?
Looking good. Yeah. But there's like senators and stuff commenting
Oh yeah.
on his post now, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So, at least some people are seeing it, some of the right people, hopefully. But yeah, a little bit of positivity should come out of that.
We've got a long distance to travel. I had spun up a post. I was in this, curious reflection stage of this industry over what we've been doing in the last 8 years, and it just triggered me to post on LinkedIn. And I was like, after everything I've been through, you and I usually speak for both of us. We've been in it from the beginning. From my days of Ample, and that allowed us a very curious perspective of the industry, I think, because, we were supplying tech solutions. So we got very intimate with these companies and the operators and the individuals and everything, right from their seed to sale. And it made me wonder, I'm like, I know I would. I guess I'll ask you the question too. And I don't know if you saw the post, but I just kind of put it out there. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all again? And most people are like, yes. Yeah, with what I've learned and the people I've gotten to work with, I mean, there's no shortage of fucking
Well, I did.
pivots.
I did, if you
Yeah,
remember. Like,
you
I
did.
did.
So did I,
the
yeah,
Ample,
in a
I
way.
did the Akerna, I did the stop. I went to, another company and spent some time outside of the industry. And I even remember saying in the Slack channel when I left Akerna, I said, this is my goodbye to the cannabis industry. I'm moving on. And I said, and then I remember, I think it was Paul who commented back saying, never say never about coming back. And, here we are now.
I think we burnt out our product people because not very many of those individuals returned to cannabis.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Shout out Will Badger.
Oh, yeah, Steph Big, Will Badger, Laura Armstrong.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know if they, other than consuming it, I don't know if they'd want another thing to do with cannabis ever again. But it's interesting, right? And I think that, again, we've got a very unique perspective. We get to sit with MVPs week over week, and these individuals that have seen success, they've seen loss, and it gives you some insight as to what's working and not working. Health Canada, we've got, I don't know, probably fucking 150 hours of what's working and not working. Go ahead and review it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll find something in there. Maybe we'll pull something out today. I don't know.
But what's your prediction for this year though? Because we've got, it could be, it could be more doom and gloom. It could be the opposite. We've got a potential entire new government coming in this year.
Yeah.
Is that just going to go, now this is going to get pushed down, like the goalpost gets moved again because
I think that's part of it is that goalpost continues to get moved a lot. I'm skeptical about any government coming in and making any reform. I think they've got bigger fish to fry than to worry about the cannabis industry. But I mean, when you look at the sheer amount of tax dollars, right or wrong, in a lot of cases wrong, the way they're being collected, especially at the wholesale and provincial levels, there's a lot of work to be done there, right? And again, as I was reflecting, it's, I understand both point of views, right? We get a smooth operator like, Nico on from Canara, and they're crushing it. They're doing very well. I even sat on his, it wasn't an earnings call, but it was like a shareholder update. Sat on that webinar. Great job, by the way. Did an awesome job, Nico. But I think this is going to be the year that people decide whether or not they want to be in it anymore. I really do.
Mhm.
Meaning,
Yeah.
I'm not going to share any of the information. Obviously, we're privy to very close information at some of these companies, how well they're performing, what their sales volume is, what their sales dollars are. I honestly just don't know. I don't know if investors have confidence in some of these companies anymore. And even if they're smaller companies, right? Which is like, you're barely breaking even. We're not talking Amazon. We're not talking Jeff Bezos here, right? Where, what were they 3-4 years in and they're still losing $12 million and reinvesting into the company. That's not the case. This is, we've been trying to do everything that we think we can do, and we're still losing money, and we've put more money in, and we're still losing money. And unless you're opening to a new consumer or demographic, like we're bringing and drawing more into those individuals in, you're fighting for market share at this point.
Yeah.
And unless unless you've got some strategy. We've seen it. We know this, right? One of the things that I had added to our list of let's review this moments was with Adam Coates and Decibel, and understanding your target demographic, understanding the market, what products are working well. It's proven that even the best of best products that have good distribution, I mean, premium type products, they still do not sell out. And it just comes down to marketing dollars, right? Those with the marketing dollars and the marketing know-how, unfortunately and fortunately, win. It's just the way it is. Take, for instance, the Jeters. Like, this is not a Canadian brand. It's a U.S. brand. I'm not knocking Jeters. It's not my type of product. But based on their ability to saturate the market through marketing efforts, they've succeeded so far. And that was a newcomer last year, right? And they're already dominating that category. So it just proves, right? There's a lot of shit alcohol. There's a lot of shit brands out there that exist. We're not talking apples, right? Apple, like Max, right? We're talking just shit product, but they understand the value of marketing, and they've got a robust marketing budget. They will win. It may be short term, right? Maybe short term, but I don't know, man. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of M&A, but I think honestly, it's just going to be a lot of just shut it down. Shut it down. There's too many products in market. We should have had some more oversight. I think we should not have treated it like the alcohol industry out of the gate. I really don't think we should have. But what do I know? Who knows? Maybe we'll be the 51st state come. This fucking shit I saw about Kevin O'Leary going off. He's going to go down to Mar-a-Lago and negotiate with Trump on behalf of Canadians that we should be a territory, or like what the fuck?
It wasn't a slow holiday season when it comes to news and stuff like that. Like, so much stuff.
Is this? Like,
I mean, we're 2 days into the new year. We've already got a couple of mass shootings. We got an explosion at Trump Tower. It's fucking insane, man. Insane.
Wait, what? Explosion at Trump Tower? I didn't hear about that one.
Oh, you didn't hear about that in Las Vegas?
No.
So Las Vegas Trump Tower. Someone pulled up a Cybertruck out front of Trump Tower, loaded with explosives, and it went off. Yeah, crazy.
We need to if anyone wants to donate a couple $1 million to Legacies, Wes and I will shoot this from some beach with, strong internet. But that's it.
Away from
let's just get away from it all, man. I don't know. Some good news. So you remember that I spent a lot of time with the Medicinal Cannabis Authority of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That was back years ago. And I'm like, I wonder how it's going down there. So I've got connects at that level and the government level, and I'd reached out. I think it would be great to have what's going on in the world of cannabis, and we can start sharing some of that. And so now it was always a struggle having a meeting with that team. One, they've got island dialect. It's tough to understand them sometimes. I'm talking about Dr. Thompson and Terrell Mapp and these guys. Incredible people. I've spent a lot of time in St. Vincent with them, but also on Zoom meetings. And the Zoom meetings, the internet is choppy as fuck. And trying to understand what they're saying at times is very difficult as well. But anyways, we're gonna line that up. If I can get them to find a strong internet signal.
This is just your ploy to have us do an on-site in St. Vincent.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, of course it is. Yeah. I mean, like, St. Vincent's very near and dear to my heart. It's where I proposed to Tanya up in the rainforest. It's a beautiful place, man. It's just gorgeous. Right next to St. Lucia, you've got the islands. Oh my God, I feel like let's just shut it down, Wes. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go right now. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good to understand what's going on. I think, we visited what's it like going to the events, why it makes sense to go to the events. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, the majority of them are just events. They're events, right? There are opportunities to do business and you can network, obviously, but I think that you can make a lot of traction just doing Zoom calls as well. But it'd be great to understand what's going on in St. Vincent or Barbados or Australia. And we've got connects in Australia. We've had opportunities. We can bring some people on as guests from Australia as well, but also through Europe, right? Europe is a fucking mess.
Yeah, Europe, and not just Europe. Like UK is the interesting one to me. UK is very interesting to me because cannabis in the UK has been it's a favorite. Like people love cannabis in the UK.
Yeah.
And because I've got a ton of family members, remember hearing stories from when people were kids. It's got its own very unique culture when it comes to cannabis, and I'm surprised of all places that is not one where it's legal yet. Crazy to me.
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know why. I think I had shared with you previously when I was in Italy. So my first day in Rome, very tired, very jet lagged. I think I had a nap. And then I got up and I came out. We're exploring Rome, walking the streets, and I see this great big pot sign, right? Huge. I'm like, ooh, wait, pot's legal in? What the hell's going on? And I don't know. I was 3-4 years into Ample at the time, obviously very focused on what's going on in Canada. So I went in, and in Italy, so at the time, and I don't think much has changed, the government, similar to how Canada started with the Peace Naturals Project, or it goes back even further than that. Canada was growing weed in the caves out in the prairie somewhere. It was the prairie something. Anyways, in Italy, the government oversees the cultivation of CBD product. So it's cannabis, it's not hemp, it's cannabis CBD, and that's what's available, and that's it. And I'm like, you have all these dispensaries for CBD? Like, that's it? And so then I started explaining. The guy spoke some English, and I explained what I was doing and what Canada. And he's like, "Oh, Canada. Oh, you guys got it going on, right?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see. We'll see." I don't know if that ever changed, but yeah, they had, and there was vending machines. Like, you could get weed out of a vending machine. I've seen that take off in the U.S. as well. Obviously, there's different state by state. It's, the rules and regulations are different, but I've heard that they're, when they were first breaking out in the US, some of those vending machines, like someone had to be there 24/7 stocking it. Like, it ring through, and they were sold out. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think the world of cannabis is something we need to start looking at a little bit more if we can get good internet connections. I mean, this platform works pretty good, but
yeah.
I'm
going to say it's hard enough sometimes here with people in Canada with half decent connections.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I don't know. I think it just opens our perspective a little bit more as to why we are doing it right in some cases, what we're failing at, and maybe what we can at least look at. But I'll go back to the Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, stay the fuck away from Mar-a-Lago. We don't need you negotiating on our behalf. No, thank you. Anyways, yeah, we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll start looking at some of our, I mean, they're all great moments. The list could go on and on and on. We've picked out some that we hope that you'll enjoy, but we'll be back right after this break.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're gearing up here for our first. I think the first one, as soon as we started making this list, Wes, the first just struck me, came to my head was Alex from Jublee, Alex Poulin, talking about fucking buying a camel.
Just the most outrageous story.
This guy needs to write a fucking book, I think. That's really what he needs to do. But anyways, let's revisit this clip with Alex talking about, he was going into the Sahara, I think, at the time. Let's see what he has to say.
But then when I really wanted to see the Sahara Desert, so I went to live in the desert for a while, and then there to get accepted by nomadic Berber and Tamazight tribe was very hard, and very, very tough on my ego as well to be refused to go in, the culture itself, since it was very welcoming up north in the northern mountains. And when I arrived down there with the hashish I made in the northern mountain, I arrived in the desert trying to get accepted. It was very hard. It took me at least a week going back to the well each and every day to try to get accepted, and nobody would even look at me. And then I got to buy myself a camel, and now people looked at me when I had my camel, but before I had a camel, I couldn't,
Hold on. Wesley told you this was going to be a completely different experience in having Alex on. How the fuck do you buy a camel in the Sahara Desert? Like, is there a camel dealer? Like, what the hell?
There's an area, a souk, they call it a souk, is where they would do commerce, sell various types of things. And there's the camel souk. It's not camel per se, there's dromedary, because they have one hump. Camels have two humps. In English, we say camel for both, but the genetic or phenotypes, there's dromedaires and there's camels. So mine was a dromedare, just to say. So there was a dromedare souk at like an hour drive from the city Mohammed, which is the last city in Morocco at the border of Algeria. And that's where I was told to go to meet some of the relative of people that I met in Aid Ben Hadou, which is like a fortress up in the mountain.
Okay.
And then when I went to the Mohammed border of Algeria, that's where I went to the well every day to try to get accepted, and I wasn't. And so I said to myself, like there's no human in the desert, obviously, without the camels. And they respect the camels so much. I have no respect whatsoever, but they will respect the camel if I do have one camel,
Wow.
And so I went to the camel souk, bought myself one there. I actually got ripped here. I got, like most of I paid too much for it. That's what I wanted to say. But I had like these baskets as well, like dried figs. I had dried meat. I had like jars of water and wool and stuff, and like even like a robe and stuff that you need to wear in the desert because it's super warm.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to the well itself, then an old man that wasn't even looking at me at all looked at me with my camel. I had like big Malian camel, and he went and he came to me and he said like, "Oh, it's looking good," and he like touching the camel. It's like I was arriving with like a Porsche in like a I don't know, like a Honda Civic Gathering or something like that. Like I had like a Cadillac or like a cool camel. I didn't know much about camel, but I knew it looked good. And then when the old man came, I had a strategy in mind. So he came, he touched the camel. So when he looked at me, I couldn't speak Berber, so I said like the politeness in Arabic. And then I opened my bag with 250 grams of hashish. So that was my gateway.
The universal language.
Yeah.
Yeah, the universal language of hash, right?
Yeah.
I've got a quarter kilo here. I'm just as he's explaining this story, I'm thinking like this is like the Canadian equivalent of showing to a car show that's like all supercars and you're showing up with nothing at all at first, and then you come back the next year and you've got like a Ferrari or a Porsche 911 GT3.
I'm wondering what differentiates a Honda Civic Camel from a Porsche Camel. Like, do they have different shoes? Are they?
I like how he's like, I got ripped. I paid too much.
I paid too much. Yeah.
I paid too much. But I think it's a testament to obviously Alex and his company. Jublee products are fantastic. You can tell there's old world recipes that are being used, and if we could pull up all of them. We would share the story of when he was a child and his grandmother sending him out to collect blueberries so she could make these special treats, and they still do this today. They go up in the northern regions of Quebec and collect the blueberries. I had no idea of that.
Yeah,
wild blueberries in northern Quebec. You learn something. This is what I love about this show. You get to learn something new. One of the other ones, obviously, we want to look at is we were very honored as we were starting out. We didn't know who we were going to get as far as guests. You shoot for the moon, right? And we ended up connecting with Ross Rebagliati, Canadian snowboard champion, gold medalist. He's like, yeah, I'll come on. I'm like, okay. This was like, what, episode 3 or 4, I think, for us?
Yeah, number three.
I'm like, okay, man. Obviously, so credit to you, Wes, because the quality was there. And they're like, okay, yeah, I see the vision. I see what you're doing. But what stood out was there was actually 2 moments, and we won't try and pull them all up, but it was the one where it was his first experience, right? And I always thought, BC Bud. And for Ross, at least in those days, not to date him, but it was hash. Let's take a look at Ross's hash story.
Grade 10, 11, something like that.
Oh, you're a late bloomer, dude. You're a late bloomer when it comes to cannabis use then.
Yeah, well, but don't forget, this was the 80s, right? Like this,
right.
Weed wasn't like as around as it is, as it was later. And so anyways, my buddies ended up with a whole pile of hash somehow. And we ended up doing hot knives, of course. And so that was the first, burn on my lip. And,
did you get one?
And,
that's the mark of the champ right there. You got to get one of those.
Yeah. My mom found a box of hot knives because I keep stealing one out of the drawer. And she's like, what are all these?
Supposed to put them back.
What are you doing?
You just put those back in the drawer, and then they're like, "What's up with these?" So you obviously, you had a Coyle stove kicking around. There was no Saran tops back then.
No, it was all Coyle, so we're all set to go. And I just told her, I'm like, "Oh, I just use those to fix my snowboard. I heat it up with the torch, and then I melt the PTEX into the board with those knives." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, it's funny the stories we could come up with when we were younger, right? Well, that creative process. We need that as adults now.
Just lie. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just lie.
Just a drawer full of burnt knives.
Yeah. Anytime I would go to a friend's or anyway, you just grab a knife. Well, obviously, you're doing hot knives. But the creative stories. That's why you don't have kids, but they ain't pulling any wool over our eyes.
No.
We've been there. We've done it. Now, mind you, I don't know. There's a lot of new technologies, but good luck doing hot knives off a saran top. I don't know how that works.
I have stories of buddies' parents pulling the wool over their kids' eyes, though. We found we were playing darts in my buddy Ryan's garage in high school, and we were throwing darts like a dickhead in the garage just because no one cared.
At each other.
We threw a dart up in the storage area by accident, and we went up there to grab it, and he puts his hand over and he's feeling around for the dart, and he goes, "Wait a minute. What the fuck is this?" And he pulls it out. And it's just this ounce of this ounce of barnweed, and he's like, he had no idea his dad smoked dope. His dad used to get so angry at him every time he got caught. And then he's like, "Oh, now I've got some ammunition here. I wonder if my mom knows about this."
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, it wasn't always just the fun stories and the first experiences, right? We went through a lot of those. Obviously, any of our guests, we try to understand their first experience, if there was one worth sharing. Some people were just like, it was pretty lackadaisical. I started, when I was 30. But for others, individuals come to mind are like Kevin McBride with Kootenay's Finest, right? Kootenay being a region that was very popular and is still very popular for some of Canada's finest cannabis, but it was also targeted by the RCMP back then. And I remember Kevin's story, sharing about having to hide under logs as the RCMP and the choppers are coming in. Let's take a look at that. That region in particular was very targeted when it came to RCMP and the police. Like they'd come in and rappel out of helicopters and chop the. I mean, we've seen it. I've experienced it in Ontario where they're coming in and they're doing their flybys, especially in the fall because it's easier to see. Were you witness to any of that happening? Because that's kind of where everyone would, like the RCMP would target the Kootenay region.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they had their own division called the Green Team, and you'd hear through the grapevine, "Oh, damn, the Green Team's parking, going through that town. They're coming west." Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Everybody, and then I mean, I got PTSD from if I hear a helicopter.
yeah,
I
for sure.
still have PTSD. I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
I've literally been hiding under a log and a chopper like 20 feet over my head. It's just kind of
Oh
like,
my God.
it's just kind of, it felt like a war zone. Like you're just like,
Yeah.
And roadblocks, you'd hear, "Oh, roadblock down the highway." Stop, sticking their head in your car. "Oh, what's going on with you guys?" And
Nothing.
Paint on your cars. Pulling over, boys,
Pay no attention to all the bales we have in the back. It's fine. Yeah.
or the hockey bags full of fresh.
Yeah, no doubt.
Freshly.
Oh man, it's giving me anxiety thinking about it because I joke and I say to Wes every once in a while, like, I'll hear a car door late at night, like just slam, and I'm like, "Oh my God, who's that? Who's outside? What's going on?" Right? And I'm like, "Okay, hold on, everything's legal. What am I doing?" But you're programmed to be hyper aware of the sounds and surroundings of what's going on. It's just a reflection of how far we've come in this industry. Going from the days of rappelling out of helicopters. What's funny is a really close friend of mine. He's a firefighter, and he's got pictures, proud as punch, new firefighter, new kid on the block, and they're burning. I'm not even kidding. Mountains of cannabis that had been, so the police had gone in, raided, cut it all down out of the field. They pile it in the back of the fire department or, some controlled burn somewhere. And he's, it's this old, I want to say it's a Polaroid picture of him standing, and now he's a consumer. And I'm like, how do you feel? Every once in a while I'll be like, remember that picture? Remember that picture back then when I was advocating and you were burning? Yeah, you're just burning the wrong way. Anyways, we've come a distance, that's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of Kevin's though.
Speaking of Kevin's, this was one that we definitely had on the list, which was Kevin from Royal Harvest, his story about the undercover cop. And again, someone that should write a book. And it's one of those stories where we know Kevin, we know this to be the truth and why, but it's one of those stories that are so hard to believe. It's like, wait, what? This is impossible. Anyways, let's take a look at what Kev had to say.
And one night I'm out staying at a friend's in Kananaskis and the phone rings. And so my buddy's like,
hey, do you want to go to Vancouver? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. So I just had left back home because of the heat that was going on 6 months ago, right? So the next morning they come pick me up and I get in the vehicle and there's my buddies and then there's a full car and then there's a Mexican guy in the passenger seat and he's passed out. And when they pick me up, everybody's got beat Corona open on their lap, vehicles filled with smoke. So, all right, let's go. So we get in, I crack a beer, we're smoking weed and talking. And my buddy looks at me and he's like, Kevin, there's something about this guy I got to tell you, but I don't want to tell you. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, don't worry about it. Just have a good time. You don't have to worry. Let's go.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. And as we're driving, I kind of like think for a minute, I wonder what this is, but I just forget about it because we're having fun. So anyway, this Mexican guy kind of sobers up a little bit, comes up from being passed out, and he turns around and he looks in the back seat and he goes, I'm an undercover police officer. And my buddy looks over at me and says, this is what I didn't want to tell you. And he goes,
well, thanks a lot, asshole. You could have told me when I got in the car, right?
I know. And then the guy says, and we think there's people shipping weed from out west to out east. And he points right at me. I'm the only guy in there from out east. Everybody else is from either like another country or out west. And he's like, and we think you're doing it. He goes, but I just got divorced. I lost my wife, my kids, my house. I just lost my dog as well. He goes, I just want to have a good time. Forget about any of this. And I'll let everybody know that, like my superior, know nothing's going on. And at this point, nothing was really going on. I got away to be away from things. I was just kind of living. So I'm wondering to myself as we're driving, is this for real? Or is this guy just in a car with some guys he doesn't know well? And he's saying something that, you know, kind of maybe keeps him safe. So as we're driving, one of my buddies is a black guy. He's driving. We're doing about 160. I kid you not. We're going through the Coquihalla at this point, going in towards Vancouver, right? We're doing about 160, still drinking, smoking weed. And there's the RCMP in the middle of the road with a radar gun. And you see how mad they are. They're, pull the fuck over. Pull the fuck. And as we're pulling over, this black guy starts hitting on the Mexican guy who's about my color, saying, give me your driver's license. Give me your driver's license. I don't have a driver's license. So the Mexican guy has my buddy his driver's license. As the cops come into the window, smoke barreling out the window, he hands his he hands him the insurance papers, the other guy's driver's license.
The cop goes back to the car. He's clearly not black.
Cop goes back to the car, takes that unusual long time that it always feels like when you're sweating. Comes back with like a $60 ticket. Is like, okay, guys, just keep your speed down. Have a good day. As we pulled off and got out of sight, the guy in the front seat turned around and said, I told you. He rang my name. Cena was on duty. Do not detain and let us go. We went to Vancouver. We partied. Had so much fun together. They dropped me off back where they picked me up. Never seen from him again. But about 4 months later, I went back home because I wasn't staying out there forever. I went back home and literally I couldn't get gas, piss, or anything without they were all over me. So I know it cost them some money to come out there and try to visit me, right? But it was just one of those crazy stories that something greater than myself, as I always say, has guided me and has blessed me enough to be where I am. When I look back at everything that's happened and the lessons that I pull from it and seeing where I am now, what the potential is of what I could create for not just myself, but for so far beyond, as you guys know, it all makes sense. Like all these stories, all these lessons, all these losses, they really teach you what's important in life.
You can take the what is it? Hold on, let me get this right. You can take the boy out of the East Coast, but you can't take the East Coast out of the boy. Car. And I got back in the car. What a crazy fucking story, though.
Yeah, like, that's outrageous.
I mean, I've got some doozies that I've never shared, and I don't know if they would ever come close to that. That is nuts. Someone looking over them. So. Like, I don't want to be around that. I'm so far removed from that now.
I just wonder what was going through that RCMP officer's mind. Like, oh, I can't detain this guy. He's driving by speeding.
160. Yeah. Oh man. Well, I think reflecting on the industry, obviously, we'd love to see change. We were talking about this in the early part of the episode, but someone that has a vision for the future that we would love to see come to fruition is Alannah Davies over at Dabble. And, because they do tours and they've got an Airbnb, and obviously COVID had some issues with that. But she's very clear that like, why not have a hashery? Why can't cannabis be treated more like a vineyard, and you have the tours and you can consume on site and that sort of thing? So let's replay what Alannah had to say about that. Why move into another province if you can exclusively sell out within BC?
That's my perspective as well. A lot of people are like, when are you guys going to expand? And I'm like, I hope I never do. I hope I'm like a winery where I got people on my wait list to buy cases. All, like that's my dream. I want to be a hashery that is people come here, they stay, they buy, we have a tasting room. They,
man.
that's the dream. And they, come to experience our product because it's ours. My goal is to create cultivars that are exclusively ours. I don't do white labeling. I don't believe in it for myself because we did all the work. Like, I don't want to sell my product at a discount to you for you to put your name on it and your brand recognized. Like, that's just not what I'm about because I'm the one who's in that lab. And so if I can then successfully sell that via my brand, I'm sure as hell going to try.
Yeah, I think that, through the various episodes that we had, we'd kind of question this, right? Which is more distribution helpful, right? Is this helping you or is it hindering your progress? Obviously, dealing with different provinces and different wholesalers and distribution points, and it's all different, right? Province to province, it's different. Is if you can keep up to supply and demand in your own market, why go anywhere else?
Yeah.
Why bother? Which to me, again, it's, that's why I love the farm to table, right? Or the farm gates. Shout out to Jonathan Wilson again with what he was doing with the back door out in Shediac Cape. But that's, to me, the way I envision it. Obviously, we want convenience. We want to go to dispensaries, that sort of thing. But if you can keep up with supply and demand, why go any further? Like, I just,
offering it.
I know some reasons has to do with greed, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at
offering it to in a uniquely tailored experience like that, it sounds amazing.
Oh, I love it. We'll have to catch up with Alannah again soon and find out where she's at. But one of the ones that really stood out for me, Wes, was Abby Roach. And obviously, Abby, legend in the industry, huge advocate, push for change. Started with the hot box, but the hot box may have never been without the help. And I don't know if it was a security guard. She said security guard. And maybe it was a security guard, but I would imagine some administration staff that had helped her. And there probably wouldn't be a hot box without it. Let's check it out. Wait, hold on. How did you get a grant? Did you not have to tell them what you were doing with the money?
People didn't know.
I mean, back then it's like
1999. Like, people
money,
didn't know what
no
a
problem.
bomb
We'll
was,
just hand
right?
this out. Yeah.
Yeah, like cannabis was like counterculture, right? Like, so when you would say things, like, people didn't really understand.
Got it.
And then when I went to go get my HST number, the security guard actually was helping me fill out the form. And he said, "What are you going to be selling?" And I said, "Oh, like, like weed stuff, like marijuana stuff." He's like, "We're going to call it gifts and glass." He's like, "Okay." And he filled out the form. And luckily, if that man did not check off that box, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But we had a little store, and then we moved into a more central storefront. I was sharing it with these dudes. They were like frat boys, university frat boys. One of them broke up with his girlfriend, so they gave me the area in the front, and they lived in the back. So they were like wild, like university guys, like in the back with like girls coming in. I was nuts. Anyways, and then they gave me 2 weeks notice. And they're like, "Okay, we're moving out. Do you want to take over the building?" I was like, "What? It's like 1,500 square feet. The place is a mess. Like, can you imagine? It was a mess.
Oh
like,
my
there was a
God.
backyard. The backyard was like full of just garbage. It was crazy. But I had just gone to Jamaica for the first time, and I'd gone to Vancouver. I went to Blunt Brothers. That was the first lounge, and in Jamaica, I really got to experience what it was like to just be in a normalized environment where people just consume cannabis and nobody scoffs at you, really. It's not very, people imagine Jamaica is very common, but it's actually, the majority is actually very church-goey, but that's a different story for a different time.
Yeah.
Then I was very inspired, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna just turn the back into a coffee shop because that's minimal. So I took out a Home Depot card for $500, an IKEA card for $1,000. So I got furniture and I got a little bit of like wood and whatever. I had a boyfriend at the time that was very sweet, and enslaved him, and he built the whole thing for me. The landlord was kind of copacetic with the restaurant thing, so he gave me a bit of a break on the rent. And
Nice.
with no money, I just managed to do it.
The check of a box. That's all you need. Check of a box, and all of a sudden, Hotbox Cafe is born. But
so lucky, amazing. Like,
well, I mean, obviously, Abby is a serial entrepreneur. She's done very well with Jane Dope and Her.b and all her success throughout the various cannabis companies she's been with. But in those days, that's brash. Like, you're coming right out and you're opening a head shop essentially, and there was consumption going on. But Alan Young, I mean, wow, creating a framework to operate by. Like, in those days, it would be tough to find the lawyer willing to even commit time to that, right? Oh, weed.
Yeah.
Weed. Anyways, moving on. One of my favorite people in the entire world, let alone industry, is Mr. Michael Elkin, most traveled individual CannaBrokr there is. But his story, man, of I'm getting into this fucking space. You'll recall, I think it was Tweed, right? So Tweed had just set up, it was the old Hershey factory, and he was doing some security and cameras, and he's like, oh, they're going to need cameras. The best is he's back. He's back. This fucking guy's back again. Let's hear it.
August of 2013, I'm driving to work one day and I hear on the radio, there's a company that's going to be buying the old rundown Hershey factory in Smiths Falls and turning it into a medical marijuana facility. And I was like, first of all, what? And then I was like, second of all, Smiths Falls is 45 minutes from Ottawa.
Right.
I might as well just drive there. So I literally drove that day to Smiths Falls. I show up at the Hershey factory and I'm like, wow, this place is in rough shape. And it looks like a prison and a hospital, both of which the security company that I was working for that was their number one core of business. They were a government contractor. So then I show up the next day and I start going online. I start reading about this. Back then it was the MMPR, I believe that was getting ready to be launched. And the government and the conservative government, Stephen Harper, were going to license the initial facilities to support the medical program. And then I remember going scrolling or reading whatever I was doing. And I remember falling upon, I think it was Directive 28 or something like that. And it said physical security requirements and storage for medical cannabis and storage areas. And it was one fucking page from this entire directive. And it's cameras everywhere that there's cannabis, cameras in the hallways, 2 years of video storage, and my eyes. And I was like, wow.
You're just going, cha-ting, cha-ting,
wow,
cha-ting.
2 years of video storage. I'm looking at this Hershey factory, which is 200,000 square feet. I'm like, they're going to need 300 cameras. 2 years of storage. They're going to need petabytes of servers. So then I show up the next day. I start taking pictures. I show up to the fourth day, taking pictures. I'm walking around the entire facility. I'm knocking on doors, nothing. I start drawing in my pad. I'm starting to actually write a security directive. It's Friday at 5 o'clock. I'm doing my this is 5 days in a row. I'm walking around and walk up to the front where I think it was still a Hershey sign at the front, a blue door. I knock on the door. And I walk away, and then the door opens up, and it was Wizard of Oz meets Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. What? And there was a guy standing there, and he's laughing. He's like, "Dude, what do you want?" He's like, "We've been watching you in this boardroom."
I was gonna say he's probably been
Monday.
watching you for 5 fucking days.
He's like, "This guy's back. Is he selling Bibles? What does he want?" And I was like, "Oh." I was like, no, I'm not a Bible salesman. No, I'm not Avon calling. I work for the biggest national security, blah, blah, blah. We do correctional services. We've secured the Parliament Hill. And I handed him this binder. And it's like, here's a security directive for the security directive for controlled cannabis at the MMPR. And he was like, you're crazy. This is amazing. And that guy was Chuck Raffici.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And then he brings me in through the front door. I walk up to the boardroom. And there was this empty boardroom with a giant, about 30 or 40 tables squared around. And it was Chuck Raffici, it was Bruce Linton, it was Mark Zelakukin, it was this guy, Brian Greenleaf, who was the operations manager. And I forget the other guy. And they're like, we got him.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't sit. And then they're like, and he does cameras. And they're like, and he does cameras. He's going to do the whole facility. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do the whole facility. And then that was in August. And we went through a whole bunch of blah, blah, blah. And then I remember the day, because it was October 21st, 2013. I was in, I think it was Hamilton, wherever Mohawk College is
it's
located.
Hamilton.
I was there at a facility security summit or whatever it was. And there was like a 3-day conference. My phone rings the second day. It's Chuck. He goes, let's go. We just got word from Health Canada. We can plant our seeds. Let's go. I literally, in like 5 seconds, I like throw the entire like trade show team together. I'm in the car and I go from Hamilton to Smith Falls. I meet an entire team at the facility. And as we were like hanging cables, I forget his name, Ryan, the first ever master grower for Canopy, or then known as Tweed, was reeling in the clones. We're hanging cameras. And on October 21st, we installed the first phase of security for Canopy. And then we got paid, which was even crazier.
Whoa. People get paid in this industry?
We got paid.
Take it from Mike, right? Opportunity, jump on that opportunity. This is one of the things that I love about him. I mean, who else at that time would be hearing that and going, hey, I can make this work. But heart of gold, obviously. And glutton for punishment maybe as well.
I'm just imagining what those guys were looking at on those security cameras, watching him scope the building.
Yeah, taking pictures. Like what would you be going through your mind sitting there? Like I mean, I would probably be out there.
I think first would be like, do I need to call the cops from this guy? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, why is he here? What's he? You know, maybe he should have sparked a joint up. Oh, he's one of these guys. Okay, no problem. Bring him in. We've gotten to know a lot of really cool people, man, and I feel very blessed to have been on this side. I mean, just to get to know them, but in this case, we're talking Glen Coyle, and 6'1" Charlie, his work with veterans, another guy with just an absolute pure heart of gold. But him sharing his reconnaissance story, I think it was Afghanistan, and they had to do. I think they were calling in for air support. And they're like, we can't see. It's nighttime. There's no way they can see them. How are they not going to get hit themselves? Glen shares this.
He talks about being the comedic relief in the group in times where it's really not appropriate, but like it's needed. So
yeah. But no, this one where they're doing snow angels. I guess they're weed angels in this case. Yeah, let's take a look.
There's one story I do tell. And because I think it's funny. So I think it's funny, but then people are, they kind of look at me and I'm like, yeah. So I'll try it out here. So we thought we were being ambushed. I know, right? Weird way to start off a story. Like, but just hear me out. So we were, it was nighttime because we only did patrols at night, recon through, with thermal through, anyways, night vision. That's what we did. That was our thing, our shtick. And we were in a village that was abandoned, and all we heard, so eerie, were the sounds of like twig flops. But right, I'm like, shit. And we thought we were being surrounded, and we thought we were going to be ambushed. So everybody was tense as shit, including myself. Like, is this it? And I go to my Sarge. I'm like, I got to break this tension. Like, this sucks, right? So I'm like, Sarge. He's like, what's up? Is he something like? And everyone kind of listened in. I'm like, what do you guys think of the whole Nick Lachey, Jessica Simpson fiasco? And everyone just started fucking bursting out laughing. I'm dead serious. And I'm like, shut up, right? So I took that situation that I thought was probably the last day on Earth, and I made it into, I had to. And that was what I was good at. And I'm still good at that, doing the comic relief.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there are some funny times that just, like stick out. And those funny times are enough to, to keep you going.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a skit right out of a Michael Bay movie. Right
No
there.
shit. No shit. Oh my God. I could just imagine.
Okay, sorry.
So
one more, which I really think you guys will appreciate.
As many as you want.
No.
As many as you want.
You'll appreciate it because we were in the middle of a pot field. And like to the ceiling high with like sativa grown cannabis, which I had no idea at the time. And we were, this was actually, we were in a firefight, and it was bad. And there had to be predator. There was predator watch, and we called in, it's called Hellfire. And they couldn't we were so close to the position, they didn't know where we were. And they were going to drop Hellfire. And they said, basically, do something to make yourselves noticeable now. Like, you know, so two separate groups, 3 and 3 were separated in the pot fields. And our sergeant goes, get down on the ground and start doing snow angels. So all you must have seen from aerial in the pot field is a bunch of guys doing snow angels. Right? Like, how funny would that be, like, later on? But I mean, we're doing snow angels surrounded by pot fields. And then, you know, it came over like, okay, 6-1, we noticed kind of then, but
well, yeah, because obviously you can't throw flares or anything up like that. Like,
right? We're that close, and doing
quick, someone roll a quick, someone roll a joint.
Thinking. Yeah, Rick. Like,
jeez, the amount of stories he must have, but man, I couldn't imagine the tension. If there was a time he needed a joint, it'd be now, right? Thank God. Oh my God.
I can also imagine that guy in the AC 130 above looking down in that thermal camera going, what the fuck?
What the fuck are they doing? What are they doing? But I mean, hey, smart. Love watching the rise of his brand. Obviously 6-1 Charlie has an apparel line and everything outside of that. But yeah, it's just, you know, one of those guys you just hang. We've got to hang with Glen a little bit. Super nice guy, super great guy. Okay, what other stories? There's one with Genevieve. Do you remember this? Genevieve was one of our earlier guests as well. I think it was around episode 5 or 6.
Yep.
And she was talking about she'd been hired on with Stewart Farms and heading out east. And I think she was making the road trip with her daughter, and it was quite late. And she ran into a ride program or something like that, just after or during smoking a joint, which, wow, talk about anxiety.
You have to get in the zone and just be like, gone. Like, who's this picture of this kid? I don't know. Gone. Like, kid,
oh, wait, that was a baby picture. Yeah.
Could be, right? I don't know. But I've moved a lot, so I've just done that at all those opportunities. So I didn't have a lot of stuff. I was borrowing furniture at the time in this trailer anyways, and so I just got rid of stuff that I couldn't fit, which was basically all of my plants. And like, so I had to, that was the hardest thing, was like I had 50 house plants that I've had forever. I was able to keep a few things, but it was that tight. I had a large dog I was bringing with me, a cat in my Jeep with just a small U-Haul. So it took us 9 days. My daughter came with me for a fun trip. We made it 9 days, and we had to go the whole country through COVID.
So it's like desolate out there. Yeah, I want to hear it.
When we got to New Brunswick, so I'd never been to New Brunswick. Me and my daughter were just coming through Quebec. Or it's like, we didn't really smoke weed kind of like in the vehicle when we're in Quebec, because it's kind of, you just never know there.
That's like a different country. Yeah. It's like going into a different country. It's like everything's different. I don't know if I should be here.
Yeah, I was nervous. So anyways, we got into New Brunswick, and then we decided, we got to the New Brunswick sign or whatever. And we were gonna, we got out, we stretched our legs. It was 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. I can't remember now. We smoked a joint, and then we got back in and went, we have an hour left or 2 hours left. And we went around the corner of where the sign was, and there's like a whole patrol up, and like, I was like, holy shit.
What?
Like, pull up. And the guy was like, it was the only province where they wanted us to physically check in because of all the COVID shit that was.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was July 2021. And so I had to have my letter from my employer, and like, so yeah, I had to find everything.
Oh my God. And just shortly after blasting a J too, right?
Yeah, it was really inconvenient.
Oh my God.
But the guy was really cool.
That's nice. That's nice.
Well, it's nice to know that New Brunswick's stance on cannabis hasn't changed. We're more worried about you traveling over COVID than cannabis. Talk about PTSD, just heard mentioning that, and all those check-ins and all the bullshit that everyone had to go through with COVID. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyways, Genevieve, obviously she's moved on from Stewart Farms, but where has she landed? What is she doing now? Do we know?
She started something with Katrina, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I have to double check, but I think her and Katrina are still working together.
Okay. All right. Well, I think one of the other interesting guests that we've had on, obviously we went through the history and story with Lisa Bigioni Stok'd Cannabis and her early days of, I think I just mentioned to you, I said there was a story about her stealing booze or first experience or something like that. And I was like, what was that? Let's take a look at Lisa and her story of stealing booze. Sorry, Lisa, we have to rehash it.
I mean, I smoked my first joint when I was about, I think it was 12 or 13.
Whoa, okay. Early.
Rubber girl, right?
No doubt.
I was asked to, do you want the story?
That's why we're here. We want the story.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was asked to babysit. I was a babysitter, which I hated doing. And I asked if I could bring a friend, and they said yes. And we stole a piece of hash from her mom's stash box.
Okay.
Took it babysitting, put the kids to bed. These like stranger kids. I know this isn't a good look for me, but remember, I was 12 or 13.
It's okay. It's okay.
We put the kids to bed. We went outside. We rolled it into a joint. We smoked this joint, and it was our first time. So I'm not sure that we really felt it that much, but when we went back inside into the rec room, we were looking at their bookshelf and we found the Kama Sutra. Now, if again, we just started flipping through. We're young, right? So we're like, holy moly, look at all of this. We're flipping through it and giggling our heads off. And we each pass out. I pass out on the couch and she passes out in the lazy boy chair. And the dad or the husband comes home first.
Okay.
And we're both passed out. I mean, anyone could have broken into the house and stolen the children. And he's trying to wake me up, but he's a nice guy. He doesn't want to come over and like touch me and shake me. So he's standing in the doorway to the family room, calling my name progressively louder and louder. This is what he told me afterwards. And I finally woke up. Oh my goodness. Woke my friend up. And as we're walking out of the room, I see the conversation like open on the coffee table. And I'm just mortified.
It's bad enough getting high watching kids. You get the Kama Sutra out too.
I'm picturing him yelling, Lisa.
Yeah. Well, sorry we had to out you on that one, Lisa. But don't worry, we've got other dirt on other people now too. I think was it Chris? It was Chris Crosbie. We had him on or scheduled to be on, and he had to cancel. It was like almost a last minute thing. It was early on.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we finally managed to get him back. I forget what episode he was scheduled to be on. I think it was within the first 10 or 12, something like that. And we finally get him back on. And another, he reminds me of Alex a little bit with this well-traveled, he spent time in Cali, did all this stuff. And then he's off into, so he's very much into mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu. And I think at the time he was studying Muay Thai, and he was, he had gone to Thailand and went out and lived in the bush with some sensei or teacher, instructor that was like some old army guy or something. But we were asking him about what was that like? What was, could you access cannabis at the time? What was available? Anyways, let's take a look at that clip.
Anywhere range of like monks at the temple to like little kids in the village could all come and train for free. And at that point, because I lived there for 3 years, I had a lot of contacts across Thailand. So people would come and visit me, do some intense training, and we would run like 10 kilometers into the jungle and just kick down these like giant banana trees and do crazy traditional martial arts. And one of the weirdest videos I have online was before like people had like influencer stuff was really like huge. Like I didn't have a smartphone. I had like a camera, SD card, and no
Nokia
computer.
flip, and
Yeah,
very grainy.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a video of me kicking down a tree that gets 1 million views. And eventually by the time I leave Thailand, they give me like a full monetized offer, but it expired. I didn't even have the internet.
What?
I had no idea.
What was the caption? Maritime's white boy high on cannabis kicks down banana
like
tree.
white Thai banana tree or something like that. And if you like
Wes,
Google my name,
we need to find it and throw
On
a
it.
clip
Yeah.
On it.
it's pretty funny.
That's fucking awesome.
Like,
But
like
listen,
white
this
Thai
is very reminiscent. Like so I grew up on all the kung fu and martial arts movies, very much into it. This is blood
Yeah.
sport for me through and through
Yeah.
and through, right? I'm thinking Jean-Claude Van Damme wants to be trained. No, we're not training you. I'm chasing you down. And
Yeah.
but there was no weed.
100%.
There was no weed in that movie.
And that's what I love about martial arts. It's like, it's all about this mentorship and creating a connection and transferring the knowledge and stuff. And there's so much lack of mentorship out there in today's world now. Cause
There
like
is.
access to information is everywhere, right? Like you go on the internet, get it all for free, and you don't have someone to like filter it and give you their experience. So that was a very cool part of my life.
I wonder if that's his new harvest style.
Just walks in the room and just starts karate chopping plants down.
Well, you need this harvest? Hata! Yeah. Chris is a good guy. He's got a lot of stories. We suggest you check out all these episodes for some insight as to these operators. I think one of my favorites that both you and I agree on was Oceanic. And we had, who was it on? It was Taylor Giovannini and Dylan. It's Dylan, right?
Yep, that's right.
Dylan. And there was just something about that story and feeling like family. I mean, they were really giving back, and obviously they can operate a little bit differently. They got retail chains, but it was just about the way that they treat their employees. I think we were both ready to go. Okay, we're coming. We just want to work for you.
What had actually transpired was there was this wonderful man who his name was Tom Holland, and he had purchased like about 50 or 60 houses out here, and his idea was, it's called hotel, but it was kind of before Airbnb, but his idea was an Airbnb situation. He unfortunately passed away about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and all these houses were in the midst of being renovated and or something dealt with. So nothing had transpired with them. So they were being decrepit. They weren't. So we have now purchased a bunch of those for employee houses. So, our moving to Buren, buying an abandoned fish plant, that we don't just do that because, it makes economical sense. There's heart behind it, right?
Sure.
What are we doing here? And the drive was the economic impact to the community. And we are the community now, so it's been a burning passion of mine to not only revitalize, the fish plant, but the little island that we kind of possess. So we're slowly kind of picking away at house by house. And then also, we're living in a very weird world right now where shit's expensive. Things are really tough to kind of keep it on the up and up, like feeding your kids, housing. It's hard. So we're really trying to, and on the other side is that we're paying these employees, but again, the cannabis industry, so we can't afford to pay our employees enough to afford the lifestyle. So here's our solution, fail fast and pivot, is picking up these houses and providing a solution for affordable housing.
Yeah, the community built on cannabis.
That's it.
Yeah. I love that. We need to get out there. That would be such an eye opener, because we get so stuck in what's going on Ontario, right? Busy, and I don't know. And if I recall correctly, I think she puts all that work on her husband. Renovating the houses, building out the retail locations, getting the plant up and running. One of the items that we call this out a lot is we had Kirk on, and one of the most notorious lawyers when it comes to battling Health Canada and our rights, was very clear about the way that we market, the way that we handle distribution, and the fact that this is potentially against our constitutional rights. And I'd always said it's right in your application to be an LP, they want a business plan A. And in a business plan A, a typical or traditional one would include a marketing plan. Of all things, a marketing plan. And I've always joked and said, why would they have that in there when you can't? I get it. Yes, can't is a strong word. There's options and opportunities, but not in traditional means. And Kirk was very clear on this. Let's see what Kirk had to say.
It is not uncommon in industry to do that. If you go to the federal court's website or CanLII, search up Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly, a major pharmaceutical company, regulated by the federal government, regulated by Health Canada, gets told product X can't be sold in Y manner, or product X isn't scheduled this way. They don't just take it. they go to court and they
Right.
fight it if
Yeah.
they think the government is wrong. And sometimes they win.
Hmm.
And our industry needs to stop being scared of its own shadow,
Yeah.
get into court and fight these battles when the government is wrong. And I can tell you they're wrong in a whole bunch of areas. I've, on behalf of my company, Great Gardner Farms, have challenged a number of letters that we've gotten from the regulator saying, this is non-compliant or this activity is not permitted. And you know what? If I think they're wrong, no, we're going to keep doing what we think we're allowed to do under the rules. And even if we're not allowed to do it necessarily by the rules, sometimes the rules are unconstitutional. So, for example, in my opinion, just about the entire marketing and promotional restriction scheme is completely unconstitutional, violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protections on commercial speech. That needs to be litigated.
Yeah.
An industry that cared about its ability to thrive in the long term would be in court right now challenging some of this nonsense because it is an absolute anchor on our ability to succeed and prosper.
Yeah.
And no other industry would take it. None.
No other industry would take it.
And he's still right. Yeah.
He's still right. How often do we come back to that? And at what point are we finally just going to say enough's enough? I think my dream team, if I'm drafting, what do they call that? Fantasy
draft?
Fantasy draft would be, I would have a CPA at the top. I would have a lawyer like Kirk. And I'd be like, bring it on, motherfuckers. Bring it on. Wait, letter for what? No, I'm going to do that anyways. I do got to go back and look that up on Canley. I love Canley. For those that do not know Canley, and if you're in the cannabis industry, I highly recommend you use Canley. One of the greatest resources. You remember how much I promoted this with our team at Ample was, if you don't know, never answer. Go to Canley, look it up. It's indexed, it's referenced. I love it. And that's how you get as familiar as you can with those regulations.
Yep.
Sometimes a little too familiar. How many arguments have I had? Oh my God, so many arguments, especially over record keeping. Don't challenge me on record keeping. It's just, I had to live that for a long time. Okay, let's look at, I think you and I both shared a kindred spirit when it came to this. Our first meeting we had was with Shauna, Levy, and her product's awesome. Obviously, Shauna, background in marketing and design, very smart person. She launches products under wellness. They are a wellness category. However, you can't use wellness in cannabis. I still don't understand why. But you and I both agreed if there was ever anyone that we wanted to help, it would be Shauna and her company, because it's just so wrong that, there's been a lot of false starts, I think, for those entering the industry, especially with CBD products. And those that are in the industry with 90+% of their portfolio being CBD wellness products, they struggle. They really struggle. Anyways, let's go back and revisit what Shauna had to say. What is the challenge from the supplier side or the producer side? Is it the category? Is it the type of product that you're putting in these SKUs? What is that challenge? So, because we see this a lot, again, potency is driving a lot of decisions in this industry right now. And there's a lot of producers out there that are like, yeah, we produce fire flower 30% plus, but that's not your niche. So what is that challenge?
Well, that's just it. I mean, the wellness category apparently represents about 10%, and I would say probably less even, of the overall market. I heard a stat recently that the average retailer carries 7% of the overall available SKUs. And so, when you're talking about that, then, 10% of that being wellness, and that category is primarily dominated by the larger producers. The larger producers are able to offer better pricing. They also, because I'm contracting it out, I cannot produce my products for the same price as a producer can. Plus, we do know that there are data agreements that are happening that I cannot get involved with as well.
There are those data deals coming up again, but something that came to mind is we've gotten to be friends with Maris Cott, And Maris was, she had developed in a whole line of CBD wellness products, and they were accepted. They were ready to go for OCS, and she pulled the plug on it. And I'm like, well, why did you pull the plug? Before I even finished my sentence, I knew the answer, which was the market's just not ready for it. It really is not ready. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I had a chance just before the holidays to catch up with Ken Weisbrod. And you remember he oversaw all of Loblaw, Shopper Drug Mart when they were rolling out the cannabis program, and we worked closely with his team. But I was asking, what's going on in the space, and he's a pharmacist by trade. That's his background and history. And he's like, there are still so many challenges when it comes to wellness, air quote wellness, and CBD products, and he's very much inclined to stop smoking cannabis. Right? There's other modalities, safer consumptions. And actually I was going to introduce him with Michael at Weejits. I'm like, oh, you'll like this. But anyways, it didn't get anywhere for me where I'm like, there's hope for the wellness category, right? I think that certain dispensaries, they do well with having a wellness corner, right? But at the same time, I think the average consumer that is looking for a CBD type, and it's not just CBD, THC is used for it as well. But, we're thinking of our friends with Stewart Farms, right? They have THC, CBD blends, wellness products, topicals, etc. But having a spot carved out in your dispensary is not bringing in your traditional consumer, your wellness consumer, right? They are used to being at health stores, health food or natural supplements. It just needs to change. And it reminds me of, with Shane Morris and all the work that he's been doing to try and move the needle on this. And Health Canada is still roadblock. Oh, we need to have another consultation, right? Another consultation. And then you see companies like Madge and Mercer or Shauna struggling. I don't know what her distribution is now. I know that, she's taken a role in design again, I think. And, obviously she's still trying to push her Madge and Mercer, but these great companies, these great brands, the ones that care, they're trying to bring product to market because they care about the consumer. They're just roadblocked and then ultimately driven out of business. It just drives me insane. Well, someone that has their pulse or finger on the pulse when it comes to understanding the industry, the market, the demographic was our friend Adam Coates at Decibel. So remember, Decibel did a big relaunch on their Quest flower. And we had the chance to bring them on. I had a chance to experience some of their flower. I was like, holy shit. I don't know, broad brush, fuck corporate cannabis, but this is pretty damn good stuff. But, we got into it, and I was very clear. I'm like, listen, general admission products, I get that there's a cat or a consumer for those. I get it. And it's on the rise. They weren't for me. But we had asked straight up, like, how do you understand? How do you study? How do you know where to launch them? What makes the most sense? And Adam was clear with it. Let's take a look. How do you handle that 6 to 9 month life cycle of a product? Like, that's not easy, man.
It's tough, right? And the other challenging thing with where we're at today is the data is not very good, right? We don't have straight from POS data that we can bank on. And yeah, there's lots of data services that sort of pull from POS systems, but it's aggregated and it's a portion that then is used an algorithm to sort of forecast out what the rest of the market does. And the data is getting better. Like the provincial boards are starting to provide a little bit more. OCS has said that they're going to allow LPs to understand where their products are actually going into what stores. They're not giving competitive information or anything like that. But just even the quality of the data that's available makes things really difficult. So then on a forecasting basis, it becomes really challenging. And I think we have enough information now to sort of understand and better understand product life cycles and being a bit more conservative about how long that they'll actually last, as opposed to historically maybe being a bit more bullish and thinking that they'll actually last longer. And I think different product categories have different cycles. And so there's enough now to sort of really understand it and sort of make some best bets. But again, it's difficult. And if you think about
the difference between manufactured products and growing products, we can turn around a new vape in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's not hard because distillate is readily available and terpenes are readily available. And so you can turn that really quick. Technically, you actually have to be 2 months because 60 days with the Health Canada and NCP. But theoretically, you know, from conception to market ready, from a manufacturing perspective, you can turn a distillate vape super quick. But let's turn the page and look at flower, for example, the biggest category in the market. If you're telling me today that you want a new strain, talk to me in about 12 months and I can maybe have it ready for you.
Well, maybe we should follow up with Adam and find out what he's got planned for March of 2025. So that was August, which is also reminding me that I should make an introduction to Tom at Turf. I don't know what data product Decibel's using or Adam's using, but we've kind of carved out who we think our winner is after being through multiple analytics tools. But man, he raises a good point, right? Like, you know, you have to have these teams, you have to have data, you have to be studying what's working, what's not working. It's not just sales numbers. You know, what is your process for bringing product back in for RTVs? You know, is there chance to redistribute? What type of product was it? Is it a repackage? Like we talked about at the beginning of the episode. It's just to say that there's still a lot to figure out. There's a lot of moving pieces in this industry. And obviously, you know, excise stamp changes, these small minor wins, they'll help. But I keep thinking like there's just so much more, right? There's so much more that needs to change. And I don't know, maybe we get a GoFundMe going and see if we can litigate. Let's litigate. I'm not a litigious person. But hey, if it works, it works. Let's see if we can move the needle a little bit. I don't know.
Well, that was a pretty good recap. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff we couldn't touch on. I think there's a couple other key shout outs I'll make to clips for people to go back and watch. I mean, go back and watch episode 1 with Smoker Farms, Jeff and Sherry. They were kind enough to be our first ever guests, and that's always
we're gonna get them back on.
Great one to go back to. I think Shane Morris's episode where he talked about all the stuff that he did during the early days of legalization prior and all that stuff is a really good one as well. And obviously, you know, we've had 2 episodes with Jonathan Wilson now. Make sure you go back and watch those. Those are really important too. If there's anything else that you have too.
Well, I think for myself, looking at, I mean, we could load them up. There's so many memorable moments. But it was with Jonathan Carfield of Aveo and the sustainability practices that they're implementing for their company and in the industry, really, which transfers, right? So you remember the story, couldn't find a proper sustainable plastic, just invent one. That's different thinking. That's ballsy because that takes investment, right? So invent one. So I forget what traditional plastics take to decompose. I think it's 100 years. I think it's 100 years.
80 to 100. Yeah, I think it was something like that.
And they've developed one that's like 3.5 years fully compostable. Is that right word? Compostable?
I don't think compostable is the right word. Anyway.
Now I'm going to be stuck on that and Googling that. But no, I think that, you know, between that and man, there's a lot. I love what Origine is doing, the culture that they've built there. Obviously, I've said this for the longest time. You know me to be this, which is the culture is shaped from the top down. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what newfangled book they're going to bring out. Now, people say, oh, no, it can be shaped from the bottom up. If the leadership allows that, that's the key point, right? So it's still a top-down leadership. And I think good leaders lead from supporting their entire team. They also don't view themselves as leaders. They'll take a bullet, right? But they also are the ones that are operating from underneath everyone else and making sure that they're supported. And Origine is a prime example of that. But no, I think we've been very fortunate. We've had a lot of great guests. You know, there's a lot more that we can be bringing on, and we're going to. I'd like to not, if possible, double stack them this entire year coming up. But I mean, what are we, 43, 44 episodes in? We started into the year, obviously, or we'd have a full run. We've talked to even getting 11 and Winnie on from Disciplined Stoners. You know, we're going to try and see if we can line that up. Do some collab projects of our own, maybe not with cannabis, but with podcasts. And, you know, a shout out to all those that are doing the other podcasts. I think, you know, the High Ladies podcast, Cannabis podcast, Gary,
Yeah, Gary,
the golden voice, right? All necessary voices. They're bringing different viewpoints of this industry. And when we take the time to listen, we can see and start to line what's not working, what is working, but also celebrate those great individuals, those legends that, you know, they're still here. They're still kicking. Some of them maybe not so much, right? I think of the stories of Tantalus and Dan Sutton. Love the guy. And unfortunately, the company didn't make it, but everyone, and shout out to Atlantic. There's Chris, you know, comes in, they rebirth the brand again. We're not new to these CCAAs and the bankruptcies and shuttering of doors. We've seen it for a long time. We pay a little bit more close attention to it, obviously, because of the space that we're in. But, you know, we're going to have David Brown back on, you know, coming up. We're going to talk about a number of things, very educated in the space. I mean, he's been doing it forever. StratCan, shout out StratCan. No, man, I mean, we could go on for hours about all the cool people and all the great things that have been said. Just looking forward to 2025. I think it's going to be a hell of a year. But let's see if predictions are there. We'll ask in the early episodes that we have lined up, what are their predictions, and see if it aligns. It's usually not too far off. Maybe we need to get Jonathan back on for a treat-peat.
Yep.
Treat-peat from out east. Anyways, great catching up. Happy New Year again. I'm only going to say it this episode. I'm not saying it next. I ended at this one, but appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining Legacies.